Hi, Cindy here with Sew with Cindy. Today, let's make this jumpsuit super easy. Let's get started. Today, I've decided to make a jumper. I love these fabric. I love this pattern for the pants. It's my palazzo pants, and I am going to take my pants and cut them, but I'm also going to extend it up to my waistline, and super easy. So I've cut out my palazzo pants and extended it 6 inches because I know for me that I need 6 inches. And a way to do it is you can measure your crotch center where the pant is going to begin, and then take the measuring tape up to as tall as you want the pants to end for the jumpsuit. And I'm going to go right here. Same on this side. And that's how we get the base part of the jumpsuit. Now let's do the top. Something to think about when you're doing a print. This is the front. I always think about, I don't want a big white spot here. So I make sure and put the fabric somewhere where the print that's the center of my body is going to be the color that I want it to be, and not some weird spot. So if you're doing flowers, you'll either want to try and match up the flower or make sure the flower is a little off so that you don't all of a sudden have a half a flower. So I have my favorite sports bra pattern here that I'm going to use. When I'm doing a jumpsuit, I always go up one size just because I like it a little bit more comfortable, and not as snug like I'd want a sports bra. But I'm going to change the neckline. But once you have this base pattern, no problem. It's super easy to do because every time you go to make a change, you know this fits and you just make a few alterations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this a little bit more of a square neckline, and let me show you how to do that. I'm going to cut it out right now. So I've taken the neck, and instead of curving it down where it went like this, I squared it up. I kept the arm the same because I do like that arm. Sometimes I'll take and cut this in a little, but I know I love the way this pattern fits, so I can just change up the neckline a little. I've cut 2 pieces because I want to line the front and back, and let's do the back part now. So the changes I've made on the back, I want the neck a little bit higher up, and I'll try it on once I make it and make sure that I don't want it any deeper. But I kept it the square look, but this way I can wear any kind of bra behind it pretty much, except for obviously a racer back. But the other thing that I've done is I've cut the back in a little because I don't like it cutting into my armpit from the back. And I use the same pattern as the front because I love the way it fits when I double it up. But the big difference, I took about a ½ inch off the back. So you can see the front curves down a little because of my bust. And you know, once you get that pattern, figure out what works best for front and back. And so I took a little bit off the center back there, and I know me, and it'll work perfect. Something I like to do when I'm working with something that has a lot of different colors in it, I like to put a different color that is in the print of the fabric, a different color thread on each of the spindles. And so for me, that's just something fun that I like to do. Okay, this is how I like to do it. It might not be the exact right way, but this is my favorite way to make it fast. So I have the front and the back pieces are together. So I'm lining it. So both front pieces are together. I am going to sew and leave about an inch and a half space here. Start here and go down on all the sides. So first I'm going to do the one armpit. Oh, my cutter's not working so great today. Let's see, let's do this armpit. The one thing I love about sewing is it's actually really easy. Once you understand and have a pattern that fits you, you can change it around and make anything you want. So I like my square neckline to have a soft round to it, so I'm just going to feed it around that edge. And you just want to make sure and do it evenly, and then stop here. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with this back side. Make sure we have front and back together. Sometimes the patterns are hard to tell which is which. Okay, so this is the front of the fabric. This one has a little bit of a softness to the very front, but sometimes it is hard to tell. There we go. Sometimes you can tell to get it the same is if you stretch the fabric a little. See how this curled a little? The front on this fabric is here. So when it's curling to the back. So if I'm unsure if I have both pieces the right direction, I can just do a little teeny stretch. And now I'm going to do the neckline, do the same thing. It really doesn't matter what order you do this in, as long as you get all the, if it's, you know, the armpit first or the neckline first, you just want to make sure you match it up. And anybody that's wondering, yes, you can use a regular sewing machine for this. Sometimes I like to do little curves that cut back this way. Let's get that. Oh, that is frustrating when tools don't work right. Let's get this side. And the biggest thing to know is whenever we're sewing, we all make mistakes. It's no big deal. Just keep going. Okay, this one I didn't quite go as far as I'd like, so I'm going to cut this off. And then just pull a few of these threads out. I like a little bit more space when I'm sewing. There we go. And then pull the threads out as many as I can. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the front and back together. Okay, so first, it's been a while since I've done this, so there we go. Okay, there's, pull that guy in, pull this guy in. Now, we're going to do the same with this, the front piece, and just pull this guy in. So the front sides are out. Flatten this guy out, flatten this guy out. And when you're working with fabric that curls a little, you just want to make sure you have it all the way out. So now I'm going to sew. And if you're not sure, pin it, flip it around, make sure it makes sense what you're doing. So we have that guy. Now we're going to sew this. So basically we're sewing the front, back, and front, the outside front and the outside back, and then we're going to sew the inside portion in just 1 second. So now we're going to, so this would be the very front right here. So now we're going to do the same thing with the inside. I like to face it when it's a soft stretchy fabric like this with the same fabric, because that way if you're moving, if it twists a little, nobody's going to see a line in color. And so we have those pieces sewn together. And let's do the same thing over here. And it's good if you're new to this, and sometimes even I make mistakes, so I will lay it flat, make sure I don't have something twisted. But it's super easy to do. I think we overthink things, and for me, when I get a pattern, it's overcomplicated. So the best thing to do is find those patterns that fit the way you like it. And then now let's see. Okay, so there you go. Now what we have to do is we have to take the inside and pull it through. There we go. See that? If you try and sew it all inside out, then you can't turn it the right way. So I like to do this, and I finish that off. I trim. And always before you sew everything close together, check and see if you accidentally miss some fabric and have a hole or something. And then trim that piece off. And so there is that side right there. Now we're going to do the same with this side. We're going to take it and pull this through so we can sew right there. When you are watching in shows and you find something that you like, a dress or a pattern or something, take a picture of it and then find a pattern that looks like the outside of it, not the fabric, not any of that, but sometimes, like if you're making a 50s poodle skirt, it's just a circle skirt. They're super easy to make the pattern for. We'll show you that in another video. But so here's this front and back. Now what I'm going to do is open up the sides. And obviously, if you have not made this pattern before, if you don't know if it fits, you want to try it on. And so for this, I'm going to sew it so that both these go back that direction, because that way they'll go to my back. You just want them to go the same direction. Usually what I like to do, hey, and if something happens and you don't get that right, don't even worry about it. It's not that big. Who's looking inside your clothes? I had someone working for me once, one of my friends who is one of my favorite people in the whole world. And when she first started working for me, she's like, oh, well, this seam looks on the inside not as clean as I think it should. And I told her, go home and take a look at your clothes that you have in your closet and see that. And she came back shocked. Expensive clothes, came back looking, there was all kinds of spots where they crossed over the overlap, and it wasn't like this perfect clean line like she thought it would be. So here is my top. But now what I'm going to do, because if it's not sewn correctly, if this is shifted, you'll end up with weird wrinkles. So before I sew the bottom on, I always like to go in and sew these pieces together, make sure that nothing's curling up, and make sure that it all is sewn together, nothing's twisting. I think the biggest problem people have, make sure these go the same direction, is when people are first sewing or not confident in it, they overthink it and make it more complicated. But the more you sew, the easier it becomes. I can sew couture clothing, I can sew the perfect stuff, but for me, I like to just whip out something in 20 minutes. I think when I'm done with the timer on this, it'll be about 25. So now we're going to sew the pants. Okay, let's get a lot of fabric here. Okay, so here is the back seam. Let's check that out. Do we have the right sides of the fabric? Yes, we do. I always do is I'll sew the pants and also the top, but before I sew them together, every fabric acts a little different. So what I will do is I will go ahead and put them on, pin it, make sure I don't need to cut a little off. And if you're not positive, it's the first time you're doing something like this. So I sewed the front and the back. Now what I'm going to do is open it up and sew the legs together. And what I like to do, and not everybody, some people say you shouldn't do it this way, but for me and my clothes, I like to do where I sew the crotch together, put it together, and I start on one leg just slightly, because that way I reinforce the crotch seam, because I do a lot of bending, squatting, moving when I'm wearing my clothes, on the ground, up a ladder. So I like to make sure that it is an extra stitch. If you want, you can start at one leg and go up, as long as you're sewing it together and make sure it's a smooth, continuous line. There really is no wrong way to sew. And now we're gonna, now the big thing is I always cut my pants a little bit longer. And then what I do is I put on the shoes that I'm going to wear with it, and then I decide my hem. So today I'm just sewing it together. I will do the hem later. I've got to get the shoes that I want to wear with this. Not sure. Will it be flat? Will it be, high heels? Probably more of a flat, maybe a slight wedge, for sure. So there are those pieces. So I'll turn it right side out. Oh, where'd it go? And then I am going to go and pin it and see. We're going to sew the top to the bottom. Hold on 1 second while I go check it. Now this is something that I did off camera. I have the pants inside out, have the right side of the top pinned inside, and what I do is I always either mark with chalk or pin it, the center front, the center back to the pants, because if that's off, everything will be off. And then the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the side. Let's make sure, I want it to be going to the back first. Oh, so let's switch it over to here. And I'm going to, I did find that, let's start this all up. I did find that the weight of this fabric pulled the crotch down more than I liked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of elastic, just a really soft amount, into the under the bust where everything meets, and I'm going to have it sewn into the facing the top side. And I'm doing this because the weight of the fabric is going to stretch everything down if I don't have something kind of supporting it just a smidge. You can always go back and add that in later. Oops, that guy fell out. But you want to make sure you're catching both the front and the back when you do this. Let's bring this guy here. And I just, it's a super soft elastic that I just slightly pull. For me, I've tried different ones and I found this one just super comfortable when I go to use it. So I don't like anything that itches. And because I've lined it, I can also put some bra cups in it and then just kind of stick them in between. You can put them in beforehand or after. It's up to you. You can make a little slice in the top to just slip them in if you want, or put them in before you go. But I do suggest that you probably sew them into place so that you can just tack them from the back side. And then that way you don't end up having them move around on you. I like to just do 4 little tacks, top, bottom, and then the sides. And then you'll cross this over. I'm gonna cut off the extra. And then let's go see what it looks like on the mannequin. And there it is, all completed. I love the square neckline for me. Everybody has something different they like, but this is one of my favorites. And like I said, sometimes I will take this and bring it like that. Just give it a little bit of a wider cut here. But there's my creation. Off to the beach party. Make sure and follow us at Sew with Cindy on all social media platforms and go to our stand store to win free prizes.